Hello and welcome to ESG, a bridge to action that is presented by PwC India in association with Money Control. Today we are going to discuss a very important element of ESG and sustainability path for India Inc. that is creating social value. And to discuss this very important topic, we have with us two gentlemen joining it. Sumit Dev, who's the chairman of NMDC, and Ashok Verma of PwC India. Gentlemen, so good to have you on the show. So, before we begin the discussion, here's a special message on sustainability.
Even as your company takes efforts to reduce its energy consumption, how ambitious is your move towards renewable energy? Even as you seek to reduce freshwater consumption, how much are you focusing on rainwater harvesting and recharging of the earth? Do your CSR efforts include water projects like rejuvenation of lakes or setting up of check dams? How much focus of your company is going into governing your supply chain, particularly from a people and a planet point of view? Is diversity, equity, and inclusion a priority of your CEO? How concrete is the agenda? How much of your company attention is going towards employee safety, ethics and integrity, and prevention of sexual harassment? How ambitious is your company's CSR efforts? Is employee volunteering a big part of that? Is your company thinking of a board committee on sustainability? And out of all these, I would suggest you think of three big things to start with. One is the supply chain related responsibility. The second is safety, diversity, equity, inclusion. And the third is stepping up your CSR efforts, including a big bet on employee volunteering.
And my first question to you, Ashok, a lot of companies talk about the corporate social responsibility aspect in the same breath as the S part of ESG. Give us a sense and also the differentiation between these two elements.
Thanks, Nisha, for that question. CSR is definitely one critical element of the ESG. But when we speak about S pillar within the ESG, it is transcending beyond CSR. The social pillar covers the employees within companies and also the external stakeholders such customers, suppliers, investors, and also the communities. So we have seen an increased focus on S pillar in last 2 years post-pandemic. Companies have started embedding S element into their business operations and strategy, as opposed to merely talking about the corporate social responsibility. So if you talk about S also, there is an impact which is also coming from what choices we make on E and G elements. So we are talking about climate change extensively in past, I would say, few months, even after IPCC report has come out. So climate change is a reality and requires scientific solution, but it also is a social problem. If you look at the impact which it is going to have on the people and the working conditions. So the choice which we make in climate change aspect is also going to have a disproportionate kind of adverse impact on the poorer and vulnerable communities. So there is a need for also looking at how a just transition of the workforce and creation of decent work and proper livelihood to be maintained for people who are going to be adversely impacted by these mitigation measures which is going to come. So as India is moving towards net zero, I believe the key actors, which would include also the companies, will have to take into account this multidimensional impact on society, and which is largely the significant cost of mitigation, which is going to come directly on the livelihood, skilling, and the local economy and social cultural factors.
That's right. Let me ask Sumit Dev. Sumit, you have a very large company in a very difficult sector of mining. Now, there are two aspects to this, that is, responsible mining, taking care of the environment, and also mobilizing people and the workforce who are working in very challenging times. Tell us about your ESG thrust and how are you mitigating some of these challenges?
Thank you for having me on the show. And now this is NMDC as a company. If you look at our core activity, which is mining. Now, mining is something which is does affect the environment, the social part of it, since we operate in very remote regions of the country, backward regions, the community as a whole, the stakeholders, and obviously the governance part of it as a company. If you look at our situation in the mines, our stakeholders in the local communities which are there. So these are people who are very backward regions, tribal people. So we do a lot of work in this region. We obviously our CSR activities have been lauded all over the places, all over the country. We have received a lot of appreciation for our awards, for the sort of activity we do. And there is a lot of work which we are doing in this sector, specifically in skill development, health, nutrition. So we as a company believe that we need to take our stakeholders along with us, and especially on this journey of ESG. Now, this is one journey we have started. We are working on this ESG path, and the company has taken this first step in trying to identify the areas where we would like to take action. So this is something which is very important, we believe.
Yes, Sumit Dev, it's very important. But what are your sustainability targets and goals that you have set for yourself, and especially on the social angle?
So we already are working on this social angle, specifically for the community, and then our employees. As a company, we have around direct employees. We have around 6,000 people. Then we have the additional manpower in terms of the contractual workers. So total community would be the total employee, direct or indirect employment would be around 15,000 people. So these are the people who are directly are working in our mines, which are sustainable. And mining as in our region where we do a lot of activity in terms of environmental mitigation exercises. And then the social part of it is the employees, the community, and the greater because in these areas we do not have too many government outreach is also very limited. So this is something which is very important for all of us.
That's right. It's a difficult sector and many steps being taken by NMDC. Ashok, I want to understand many companies who embark on this journey of ESG, how do they really assess as well as measure the social impact? Are there ways of doing that as well?
Thanks, Nisha, for that question. In fact, there are a lot of people who think that it is not possible to measure or monitor and report such social impact. But now stakeholders such as investors and customers are looking for accurate measurement and monitoring of the social impact of business. In fact, global frameworks such as UN Sustainable Development Goals, UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, KPIs which has been notified by the Global Reporting Initiative, and also some of the rating frameworks like Dow Jones Sustainability Index, MSCI ESG Index. They are yardsticks which are being used commonly for measuring ESG and the social standards. And measuring the total impact with required accuracy and the communication of such impact with authenticity is definitely going to create more corporate value with all the stakeholders. Also, such impact and mapping of social return on investment is going to become a guiding force for charting future products and services by the companies. This is also becoming an increasingly vital as it helps articulate the qualitative impact and aspects of the business through a logical outcome-based approach, which was not there earlier. For instance, if you look at the global funds, which are like private equity funds and venture capital funds, they have embarked on responsible investment. And as part of the responsible investment agenda, they're encouraging their portfolio companies to use reporting measures of their ESG journey. So it essentially means that the funds, deployment of fund is something which is linked to showing those measurable impacts and outcomes for the society. As data points of these impacts transcend beyond organizational boundary, like companies alone, it goes into the suppliers, vendors, regulators. So we believe that use of digital platforms to measure such impact and ensuring that traceability and integrity of the measurements is going to become widespread in next few years. Thank you.
Let me ask you, Sumit Dev, the final question. How do companies who want to go on this ESG journey, how should they embark, transition, and what will be your advice to the peer group?
So what happens now, coming to the question obviously I would like to answer the question of that impact assessment. We do a lot of impact assessment studies, for example, in our CSR or in terms of sustainable development also. So sustainable mining is something which we are very proud of, and we profess and believe that any activity in mining, in the mining sector, has to be sustainable. I mean, after the mining operations are over. So these are very important issues for us, and we have a sustainable mining plan incorporated in the company. In terms of the sort of advice, we have started this journey on this process of ESG, and obviously we had a sustainable mining plan for the last couple of years. Now we are moving towards ESG. ESG is something which the government also is very keen on, especially for mining companies. So we have started this journey, and we believe that obviously there are a lot of things which we already have been doing. Most of the companies do that, but then we need to really systematize it and prioritize things.
That's right, Sumit. So mandate also from the government for sustainable mining in the country. So that's an important bit. And thanks so much for this discussion, Sumit Dev, as well as Ashok Verma, on the social angle of ESG, and also what are the measurables and the impact study that can really strengthen the force on the social pillar of ESG mandate and compliance by the companies. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of ESG, A Bridge to Action. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.